Thanks a lot. It's always great to come to New Hampshire, particularly when to come here I have to leave New York, which is the least free state. And I live in Buffalo, which is one of the worst parts. I'm sort of following up on the prior speaker, really. But it's often said that the Second Amendment is the most important right because it protects all others. If anybody can't hear me in the back, just be obnoxious. I can be soft-spoken because it's the right that protects all the others. But I take that even further, and my contention is that the right to bear arms is the most important political issue in the world. And I'm going to take that even further and say that the right to bear arms is the most important political issue in human history. The biggest problem that we've faced as human beings in history for the last 10,000 or so years is gang violence. Government's the biggest gang. Around 1750, the libertarians of the time proposed that ordinary citizens have a right to bear arms to protect themselves against criminal gangs and tyrannical governments. It worked. It worked. Where it was tried, and gang and government violence was dramatically reduced. The amazing, monumental, historical success of the right to bear arms is one of the best-kept secrets of all time. Then comes the gun control movement around 1960. Thanks to Ngram, you can track these dates down, whose goal is to return humanity to a state of helplessness against tyrannical government and criminal gangs by slowly but surely destroying our right to bear arms. The gun control movement is not concerned about reducing violence because gun control is itself a form of violence, government gun violence. Their concern is to eliminate the only real obstacle to endless government growth, a well-armed citizenry. The gun control movement is a well-funded, sophisticated propaganda campaign that endlessly repeats one big lie, that the United States is an unusually violent country because the Second Amendment makes possible a well-armed citizen population. My 2024 book, Exposing the Two Big Lies of the Gun Control Movement, proves conclusively that this is false. And if the Second Amendment movement joins me in exposing this lie, we can end the gun control movement once and for all. Let's begin at the beginning. Liberty is the greatest political idea mankind ever had. Thank you. Sadly, when we look closely at the history of the human race, though, we find liberty is very rare and tyranny is the norm. The pre-founding fathers, the old British Whigs, the British levelers, the very first libertarians, first propounded the concept of liberty around 1650 after mankind had suffered under tyranny for thousands of years. So yes, liberty, the right to do what you wish with what you own, is the most important and highest political value, but the more important question is, how do we achieve liberty? Let's look at the options. One, let's give government all the power and all the guns, and they will guarantee our liberty. I'm afraid that is the most common approach throughout history, and why history is a bloodbath of democide and war. Two, voting and electoral politics is the key that will guarantee our liberty, right? Nope. The last election that resulted in a significant increase in liberty for American citizens across the board was 1800, 225 years ago. Worse yet, as I asked the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Second Amendment case, and I looked at the judge, I knew he was going to write the decision against me. What if they canceled the elections? No answer was forthcoming or can be forthcoming. In fact, history provides numerous examples of canceled elections and collapsed democracies, including Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, Castro's Cuba. Three, a better idea. and I just spoke to the Constitution Party yesterday down the road. We will put words on paper that say that the government must protect our liberty and store that piece of paper in the National Archives and put it on display for the tourists, and that will save us. Sorry, constitutionalism doesn't work, which is why since 1913, we have had a completely different form of government, a permanent, progressive, big government, welfare, warfare state that concedes no limits to its powers, as shown by the lockdown, and that is completely alien to anything imagined by the Founding Fathers. But all along, thank you. I love these guys. Dennis Pratt, amazing, and Jason, it's no pressure here. This is why I'm sweating. I got really smart people. I told my wife, since we went to Pork Fest last year, I was trying to explain Liberty Forum. I said, it's like Pork Fest without the hippies. No offense to hippies. So, but we've had this piece of paper entertaining the tourists all along. Long story short, the problem with constitutions is there's no way to enforce them short of war if the government ignores them, which they do all the time. However, if you need to go to war to guarantee words on paper, what was the point of putting the words on paper? Relying on the government as the sole enforcer of its own promise to guarantee liberty is a dumb idea that has never worked and can never work. Let's add this factor to the mix. The natural tendency of government as the only true monopoly in society is to grow continuously until it grows so large that it destroys the society upon which it predates. In all of human history, only one factor has proven to be strong enough to resist this natural tendency towards endless government growth: the right to bear arms. Hoping against hope that government does the right thing doesn't work. Voting doesn't work. Rallies don't work. Lawsuits don't work. And I'm a lawyer. Lobbying doesn't work. Constitutions don't work. The only thing that works, has worked, or will work to save us from endless, constant, continual government growth towards its inevitable outcome of totalitarianism is the right to bear arms. Here's the problem in a nutshell. Thank you. Liberty is the best political idea humanity ever had, but is also the worst marketed political idea we have ever had. Similarly, the best specific idea of liberty in human history, the right to bear arms, is also one of the worst marketed political ideas of all time. If the purpose of the Second Amendment is to purpose of the Second Amendment movement is to educate Americans about the true purpose and efficacy of the right to bear arms, it has failed miserably, since according to Pew Research, most Americans think we need more, not fewer gun laws. If the purpose of the Second Amendment movement is to stop the endless onslaught of new gun control laws, it has failed miserably. There were 103 new gun control laws passed in 2023, and there are 47 proposed gun control laws on the website of every town for gun safety. We are not winning, except in New Hampshire. We are losing. And we are one or two presidential elections away from having no constitutional right to bear arms at all. The gun control movement runs circles around the Second Amendment movement. They are extremely well-funded, have a rapid response team, and they dominate social media with an endless stream of brilliant propaganda. Sorry, as a litigator, I've been sleep-deprived for about 5 days doing crazy stuff. So far as I can tell, the gun control movement has free rein to spread their lies and disinformation online, while the Second Amendment movement is largely AWOL. It's as if only one army showed up at Gettysburg on July 1st, 1863, and declared victory. So that's the bad news. Here's the good news. In my 2024 book, Exposing the Two Big Lies, I do thoroughly expose the movement, explain how it's funded by Democratic billionaires hiding behind castle walls and armed guards, but wanting to disarm the rest of us. I explain its true agenda, which has nothing to do with reducing violence, since gun control is a form of violence itself, and everything to do with taking away the only thing that has ever restrained government, a well-armed civilian population. Moreover, I identify, dissect, and refute the two big lies of the gun control movement, and I do it with statistics that are based on reliable published sources. The first big lie is that street crime is the main source of violence in America. False. As I prove in the book, over 99% of aggressive gun violence in this country is government gun violence. And I'm talking about government violence completely unrelated to protecting liberty or keeping the peace. There are 300,000 gun crimes each year, but the government commits or threatens to commit not millions, not billions, but trillions of acts of aggression against Americans each year. The second big lie is that because of the Second Amendment, the U.S. is an unusually violent country. This is another big lie refuted in the book. In fact, as proven by a sophisticated statistical analysis of 165 countries, the U.S. is not unusually violent, but unusually peaceful. If you factor in all forms of violence, the U.S. is an unusually peaceful country. We are the most peaceful, large, and diverse country, and 27th most peaceful country out of 165, behind a few dozen mostly small monocultural European countries or U.S. protectorates. So it turns out that the gun control movement is essentially one big lie repeated endlessly, a lie that is definitively proven to be false in my new book. The gun control movement wants to destroy the right to bear arms and revert to the age-old predicament in which the individual was helpless against the gang or government. And as it is one of the most sophisticated propaganda efforts of modern times, it is a serious threat to succeed in its mission. In my book, the sinister agenda, motives, and lies of the gun control movement are exposed, refuted, and replaced by a revolutionary new system for identifying and quantifying all the main sources and causes of violence in this world. That accomplished, we can then propound, pursue, and execute the 13 concrete proposals to actually achieve peace and reduce violence that are listed in the book, including constitutional carry, ending the forever wars, and enacting a global right to bear arms. These proposals will significantly decrease violence and increase peace and liberty in the world, peace and liberty being the exact same thing. We can replace the failed gun control movement with a violence control movement and build a more peaceful world. That said, allow me to appear to contradict what I just said and talk about how we need to enact constitutional carry, not just state by state, but nationally in one fell swoop. The contradiction is more apparent than real. Politics, which includes voting, supporting candidates, lobbying, and lawsuits, has generally failed in advancing liberty, while direct citizen action, in my view, is the best strategic approach for the liberty movement. However, in a fight, you don't preclude the use of any weapon at your disposal. In advocating for constitutional carry proposals such as Thomas Massey's, we need to educate the public as to the true purposes of the right to bear arms, to deter government tyranny, and to guarantee the sovereignty of the people in a republic to alter or abolish tyrannical governments. Yes, we need to endorse and support legislative proposals for constitutional carry, but we must never lose sight of the fact that the right to bear arms is an indispensable natural right and must never be surrendered, whether it is recognized in positive or constitutional law. Thus, a better term for this right is natural law carry. Natural law carry. In spite of my support for Congressman Massey's bill, we do need a backup plan in the likely event, that the bill fails. It's going nowhere. Thank you. I'll talk faster. I'm not stopping, by the way. You're going to have to tackle me. The ending is really good. If the right to bear arms is the most fundamental right and the most important political issue, we cannot afford to rely on legislation or lawsuits to protect this right. Direct action provides the ultimate answer. Get armed, get fit, get trained. Get armed, get fit, get trained. Use juries to protect the right to bear arms. Do not indict persons charged with the imaginary crime of gun possession if you are on a grand jury. Don't convict people charged with the imaginary crime of gun possession if you are on a trial jury. To sum up, the right to bear arms is the most important political issue. We cannot rely on politics to protect this right. In the end, only direct action, including civil disobedience and active resistance, as a last resort, will guarantee this right. However, before we get to that Lexington-Concord moment, let's try the full panoply of peaceful and legal direct action strategies to protect this right, including voting with your feet and pulling your kids out of government school. Granted, drives me crazy that we don't do that. Granted that direct citizen action is the most efficient means of achieving liberty, is there a role for politics at all? Of course there is. As I said, you don't holster any weapons in a fight. You never say to your opponent, I will only use certain strategies and tactics against you. I just wanted you to know that. You never, again, you never give up a weapon, any weapon in a fight. In my view, but we have to use the most effective weapon, and that's direct action. In my view, while we could take the offensive and take the initiative and win by using powerful direct action techniques, we still need to use politics defensively. To use football as a metaphor, you win by scoring points on offense, you save the win by playing defense. For 50 years, the Liberty Movement has been playing almost exclusively defense politics with almost no offense, direct action. I propose an immediate shift of resources away from politics and towards direct action without completely abandoning politics. Let me give you another reason to place a heavy emphasis on direct action. Almost every form of direct action has indirect benefits for libertarian political activity. Thus, if you are totally committed to politics as our main strategy or as a primary strategy, you should still support a major increase in direct action activity because that increase will increase the likelihood of success in politics. The Free State Project is an obvious example of this. If more libertarians move here, you will have more libertarian voters to elect small L libertarian office holders who can then enact libertarian policies. But other forms of direct action also benefit politics. I think the prime example is boycotting K-12 government schools. These schools literally exist to brainwash kids into believing left progressive big government propaganda such as gun control. Nationally, the prototypical government school teacher is a Democratic Party activist. As I proved in my book, Gun Control is essentially a program of the Democratic Party. Every child we could save from these daytime juvenile detention centers is a potential libertarian voter. Education is a form of direct action. The movement has some great think tanks, but we have not focused on educating the masses on economics. If we just educated voters on one simple principle of economics, that value is subjective, that would imply getting rid of 95% of all government programs. I could give more examples, but time is limited and the point has been made. To sum up, I got about 1 minute. The right to bear arms is our most important right. It works. The best way to defend this right is to educate the public about its true nature and efficacy. We can use constitutional carry proposals as an opportunity for such educational efforts. But whether such proposals win or lose in Congress, failure is not an option. And we must fight to the death, if necessary, for the natural right to carry, natural law carry. In that fight, there is no better exemplar than New Hampshire's own militia leader, John Stark, who had, at the height of the Battle of Bennington, is reported to have said, "There are your enemies, the Redcoats and the Tories. They are ours, or this night Molly Stark sleeps a widow." Decades later, Stark was too ill to attend a commemoration of that battle, so he sent in a note that read, "Live free or die. Death is not the worst of evils." Thank you.